There is a rhythm moving through your life, one that cannot be rushed, forced, or controlled. Welcome to Sacred Fertility Flow. I'm Ashley Holmes, holistic fertility coach and guide, and this is a space where you're invited to return to your body, your intuition, and your divine timing. Together, we explore what it means to become fertile in mind, body, and spirit so that you can move from striving into flow. Today's conversation is incredibly special to me because this isn't just someone whose work I admire. This is one of my own teachers. Yvette Lehmann helped shape the way I practice yoga, meditation, and breath work. Before studying with her, my yoga practice looked very different. It was about achieving poses, moving through sequences, and staying mostly in my mind. Through yin yoga, restorative practice, somatic inquiry, meditation, pranayama, she introduced me to something entirely different, a practice of listening. She taught me that the body is always speaking if we're willing to slow down enough to hear it. Those teachings became even more meaningful during my own pregnancy when I learned to trust my body's wisdom instead of trying to control every outcome. Today, we're exploring how yoga, breath, creativity, and spirituality become pathways back to ourselves, and why remembering who we truly are may be the greatest gift we can give ourselves on the fertility journey. Welcome, Yvette.
Thank you, Ashley. You're such a beautiful human being.
Oh, thank you. I don't want to cry already. We're only just beginning. But I truly feel like you have influenced me and impacted me in such a meaningful way over the years and have changed the trajectory of my life and who I am as a human and how I can help and serve others. And so I would love for you to start with where your work begins and how you speak about the great forgetting and the great remembering. And what do you mean by that? And how does someone know they've begun the journey back to themselves?
Whew. Well, in hindsight, it feels like this been the message of my entire life, but it took a long time to recognize it as I struggled through, just like with everyone else, of noting what my thoughts, feelings, emotions have created or held back from me in life, or what were the parts of me that um, kind of put a wall up, I should say, of being able to live the life that I actually truly wanted to. And a lot of it comes from our beliefs. So the great forgetting now that I call or label it, um, I believe that all of us arrive into this life or any life, because I also believe that we'll live multiple lives, um, in our wholeness. And then life happens. And during this early living of life, we're literally programming ourselves to fit into society, to feel safe in society, to feel accepted in society. And that, includes family, that includes school, that includes other kids, society, period. And eventually we start to live out of these programs in such a way that keeps us feeling safe and belonging. But then comes a point in life where we realize that it isn't right. It's not honest, it's not happy, it's not full, it's not wholesome. And so the great remembering starts. And so it starts with the moment when we realize that things are just not right, not what it should be. I don't even know if should is a good word. Uh, but it starts with recognition. And then in that recognition, we start to see. And we may notice that, okay, if I don't like the way I'm behaving, acting, choosing, I pause, right? So it starts with that pause. And then I make a different choice from what the program would if I didn't notice, right? So some people live their entire life in that forgetting. Some people get to a point in life for whatever reason. And usually the reasons are something difficult in life, a loss of a loved one, um, like it could be anything big, moving from one place to another, loss of a job, divorce, to loss of perhaps, even a pet. Like it doesn't always have to be loss, but some sort of a big change is where, again, it's coming from that belief that we also are energetic beings.
Hmm.
We are 85% or whatever it is they say, yeah, 98% of energy, 2% of matter. I do remember, and I think I talked about this back in the training too, when I read this, and I'm like, okay, well, what is 2% matter? And they said if you put all of that together, it would fit on a tip of a sewing needle. And I'm looking at myself, I'm like, that's not possible. That is the physical matter of ourselves. But then it goes into, the deeper you break down everything into the cellular and molecular level, there's more space than actual matter. And so because we are energetic beings, energy vibrates at a certain frequency. So yes, I can see the physical matter, but we used to say that the space all around me is empty space, but it is an empty space. It is where that life force, that universal energy is. It's everywhere.
Hmm.
I am part of that, and I came of it, and it still is part of who I'm being. So when we live in that forgetting, we forget that we are also that. And a lot of people are afraid to look inward and do self
Inquiry.
steady inquiry, is
Hmm.
because there is that saying that you have to let go or kill the ego, which is so not true in my opinion, because the ego is the human half of us. And the reason we come into this world is to experience that. So we're not killing it, we're just learning it. We're trying to get to know it. But what we're trying to get to know through the great remembering is what were we, or who are we really behind
Yes.
the programming, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is truly why we're here and what we're here to understand. And it does take, I feel like we all have the opportunity, and whether we answer the call at any given moment is up to us, but it'll keep showing up. We'll keep getting these opportunities, and eventually we may want to, turn and face inward and see what's beneath all of that. And I think it's beautiful, and part of what helped me to remember who I was to actually get out of my mind, to get back into my body. I used to honestly go to yoga to check out and be told how to move, how to breathe, how to align, how to balance, all of the things. And you really taught me how to be conscious, how to be aware, and to notice my internal state of being. And so that really shifted everything for me. And at first, it was maybe alarming because nobody else was teaching that way. And yet, that is what profoundly shifted and helped me, both through yin yoga and restorative yoga, because I was able to work with the issues in my tissues in yin, and I was actually able to give my nervous system what it had been seeking after all of these years by relaxing and restoring and understanding that rest and digest mode in my nervous system, and finally being able to exhale and feel that relief. And so, if you could just sort of dive deeper into that and differentiate between yin yoga and restorative yoga, and how people who are actually stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, how these practices can truly help them on such a deep level.
Mm-hmm. Yoga period is helpful. So I want to speak a little bit to, a lot of times for us to understand something is to understand what it's not. So yin yoga and restorative belong in a different packaging of yoga from all the other styles of yoga, which we can call them, if we group them, yang yoga. So meaning active. So hatha
Mhm.
yoga, flow yoga, and ashtanga yoga, and all those very active styles of yoga belong into one end of the spectrum or one side of, while yin and restorative are the other side. There's learning in yang yoga too, but the learning comes through doing. So
Mhm.
as a wholeness, our human likes to do, right?
Yes.
We always feel like if I'm not doing something, I'm not productive, then I don't belong, I'm not enough, and I don't
Mhm.
measure up. So we keep doing. So that yoga is good in the sense that it fits in with our doing part. But if we pay attention, there's a lot of learning in the doing. When are we over efforting? When are we not aligning with our original blueprint? When are we holding our breath in the doing? And so forth. And then in yin yoga, if I could put yin yoga into its one little basket through one phrase, I would say yin yoga is the yoga that helps us recognize inwardly. Yeah. So not through doing, but through actually observing. It's
Mhm.
the yoga of observation. And as you know, and you teach that, we purposefully put our bodies into discomfort, and we choose how much of discomfort we're willing to be with. But in that, we get to actually look at, why do I choose this amount of discomfort all the time? You probably heard this saying, and this was one of the very first thing that I read when I started on my yoga journey. I can't remember. I wish I remember what book it was, but I remember what I read. The sentence was, "The way you do one thing is the way you do everything."
Yes.
And it was such an interesting concept that I'm like, there's no freaking way that that could be the truth. And I'm like, like sat there and I'm like, okay, now I really need to read what that means. And so, what that really means is you are programmed your being to your now personality, and your personality chooses certain ways. Like we can label people as like, oh, that person is just so quiet. It's how they do everything quietly. Oh my God, that person is always so loud, or like we even see people where we're like, we literally call them, the angry person. It's like they're always angry. Are they really always angry? And they're not, but it's how they approach life. The way they do the one thing is like everything comes from, anger based. So it yin yoga, like you'll notice that, okay, I make these choices. This is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I label uncomfortable. This is what I'm okay with. And you start to really see the mind and how the mind communicates through all of your choices and what are the choices and what that helps with. Well, there's two things in this way is you start to recognize who you are, which can either say, well, now I understand why I make these choices, and so I accept that because it's just who I am. Or if it's so terrible that it's so not serving who you want to be, then you can
Mhm.
pause and then make a different choice. It's like I often say in yin, when you start to want to come out of the pose, that's the magical point. That's where you really get to see the choice that you would make. And there's those people that constantly sacrifice, constantly being the martyr. And they're like, like if Yvette says we're gonna stay in this pose for 20 minutes, even if I die, I'm gonna stay in it. Is that the right choice though?
No.
Yeah, because there is no one choice and there's no right choice. The
Mhm.
choice is see it for yourself. Can you come out earlier? Yes. But why are you coming out earlier? Because you always do, or because that's the right thing this moment? And so that's
Mhm.
what we're really teaching and learning in yin is like, what is my truth? And that can
Mhm.
change from day to day too. Like maybe one day I can hold pigeon for 5 minutes, another day it's only one, another day it's 10, and it's all okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think
And
it's
then,
so important to know that every day is different, every practice is different, your energy is different, what you're landing on your mat with is different, but yet you will be changed when you step off of the mat. And learning to sit with discomfort on my mat has helped me tremendously to be able to navigate obstacles in everyday life.
mhm, yeah, and really truly seeing that, the energy that you were yesterday is not the energy you are today, or the energy that you're going to be tomorrow. And then restorative yoga is a whole nother beast of its own, because it's neither doing nor watching and observing. It's the ability to receive.
Hmm.
I think, especially for women, we are givers.
Yes.
And just even thinking of myself, but everyone that I could think of, women in my life, they're just always thinking of others. What more can I do for others? What more can I give? How can I make their lives better? And then the moment you want to give them something, there's like they get frustrated. They don't know how to actually even receive a gift. So
Hmm.
that's what restorative yoga teaches, because your nervous system needs that. And only in the state of receiving can your body heal, restore, regenerate, renew. All the re words happen
Yes.
when your nervous system is in the state of receiving.
I have loved it for many reasons over the years because you can just allow yourself to be. You can give yourself that grace that you can be. And if you notice any kind of illness coming on, or you have any type of injury, or you notice any type of symptom, you can just allow yourself to heal and, give yourself that time and space before it turns into something more, right? And just to take that opportunity when you notice something to be able to give yourself that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, you know, as I say, it's like it's something that we need to practice.
Yes.
But it's like you do receiving once and you're like, well, I received. But it's a practice. It nothing like to be the best yoga teacher, you don't become it the first class you teach. It's by practicing, by seeing what fits for you, what doesn't, how it feels free to flow, even your thoughts, your words, your cues. Practice. So, to
Mhm.
practice receiving is also a practice. Just keep showing up for yourself and let yourself receive.
Yes. One memory I have is being barefoot in the labyrinth, and I was maybe 3 to 5 months pregnant. I can't remember exactly, but it was a silent practice. There was no cues, and it really was the first time I felt like I took my first breath because I couldn't move like everybody else was. I couldn't flow like everybody else could. I couldn't breathe like everybody else could because I didn't have the depth that I used to have or the capacity because there was a baby in there. And so that really was for me the first chance to really become my own teacher. And I have heard it, countless times in the yoga room, move with your breath, listen to your body. And it wasn't until that moment that it really became an embodied practice and it finally landed. But we can hear these things over and over, but it may take a while for them to actually land and become our own wisdom of, I finally get this now.
Yeah, silent practices are scary for a lot of people because I don't know if you've ever noticed when you spell out the word silent and you rearrange the letters, same letters create the word listen.
Mhm.
And when we say, well, listen to yourself, that's a difficult thing for many because they're scared to discover who they are. Again, once the idea floating out there that once you do, your ego will die, which it won't. But to hear your through true thoughts behind The programmed thoughts can be difficult and scary for many. So when you truly listened to your body, it was only because you allowed yourself the moment of silence. Silence allowed you to listen, which is, as I said, the same letters. And what you heard is your own inner being, which is
Mhm.
the other part of who you are. But we fill the space with noise. I have so many people say to me, it's like, I spend a lot of time quiet and alone. And I'm like, yeah, but what are you doing? Scrolling, Netflix, reading? That's not listening. That's not being in silence. Even in meditation, often people fill the space with something because it is also a practice of learning and practicing of how to actually listen. Because they're like, well, what am I listening? And then they start thinking.
Yes.
And yes, that's part of it, but it's like you stop the thinking and you're like, wait a minute, what are these thoughts actually saying? If they're just making noise of blah, 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 like you could sit in meditation and all of a sudden your stomach makes sound and you're like, I think I'm hungry. And then you, without any even consideration, you're already going into the story of when this meditation is over, I should
Yes.
have such and such. So I have to stop at the whatever store. And the next thing you know, 10 minutes went by and you made a plan for your next meal. That's not really getting to know yourself. But if you actually recognize that, wait a minute, there was a thought that I might be hungry because my stomach made a sound, and you pause there and you're like, but am I really hungry? And you start feeling into it. And the moment you actually feel into it, the action of the body, which is we're listening to the body had a message. The message was, I need to be fed. And now that you recognize the message, it's done. You don't need to
Yes.
create a whole meal plan. It's like, okay, that was that.
Yes, our mind can so easily take us. And I feel like for people who are beginning meditation, often guided is helpful in the beginning to sort of help focus you and guide you along. But eventually, you want to be able to sit in silence, to sit in stillness, to be your own teacher. And then it's not coming from outside of you, it's coming from inside of you.
Mhm. Yeah, what meditation actually eventually teaches you. So, in the beginning, when you're being guided, you're listening to instructions. Feel this, breathe, notice, sense, and all of those things are keeping you in the present moment.
Hmm.
The mind is usually in the past or in the future. Because the moment you're lost in thinking, which is an uncontrolled subconscious action, you're not in the present. When your mind is stuck in the past and you're like, I've done this, everybody done this, right? You're thinking
Yes.
that if I would have said this to that person, they would have said that then. And so our conversation would have been different and the outcome would have been that, and I wouldn't be in this shit place. But can we go back and rewrite the conversation? And who's to say that if you said whatever you think you should have, could have said, that the other person would have reacted the way you think? And
Yes.
there, so you're trying to totally rearrange the past. So now you in the present would be in a better situation. But
Yes.
you can't do that. The mind tries. And then it looks at all the failures of the past and then tries to predict the future. And it's like, okay, so when I meet with this person, and if I say this, they're probably going to say this. And this is how this situation's going to evolve. But can you predict, you know, anything of the future? Because it isn't just you, it involves a lot of people. But for you to get to even that person into that conversation, you have to go through traffic, which, involves a lot of other people. And just so much of other energies that our mind tries to, in a way to stay or be safe, control the past and control the future. But the only
Yes.
thing that we have control over is the now.
Yes.
So meditation, when you sit in meditation, is you'll see that the mind will go either direction, and to bring it back, you just have to recognize it's like, wait a minute, my mind was in the past. Wait a minute, my mind was in the future. So what is in the now?
Yes.
And what's in the now is the body. And when we
Mm-hmm.
feel awful and we listen and you hear the body, you recognize that, when we're really very sad, when we feel unaccepted, unloved, unbelonging, that's all because of we're stuck in the past with our mind. When we feel very anxious, our heart is racing, it's because our mind is in the future and the body can only exist in the present, and it can't catch up energetically to the future. So we feel this terrible feeling of anxiety. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where, if we circle back to like listening to the body is what meditation really teaches us.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I also feel like so many women are asking these questions of why is this happening to me and asking all of these questions that aren't necessarily serving them. So I would love to see what you have to say about how they could create curiosity on their path and their journey versus, this striving energy, which isn't actually energetically helping them be open to receive this beautiful life that they want to call in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So once I recognize that we all come into this life in our wholeness, and what life does to us is the great forgetting. And then those that actually recognize that something is missing, something's not right, something isn't how I want it to be, that's the moment where we start to remember. And all this feeling into how this happens brought up something else for me, and I call it our curriculum. So when you sit in your yin practice, when you sit in your meditation, when you start to pay attention to where your mind usually takes you, because there's a pattern, you start to recognize the pattern, and each of us have a pattern. So when you say that, or a person says that, why is this happening to me? It's because we chose a curriculum. And that
Mm-hmm.
curriculum could be that I'm abandoned. Okay. And if you look back, it happened from the very beginning of life. Something happened that made you believe that you were abandoned. And now it filters into everything because you can only see the world through the lens of I was abandoned and I am. So you feel that in your relationship with your partner, you feel that in your relationship with coworkers, you feel that in your relationship with yourself. You keep abandoning yourself. Yeah. So, why is this happening to me? If we keep asking that question, we are still stuck in the forgetting. So, the
Mm-hmm.
question isn't, why is this happening to me, but what is happening? And what is it offering for me to see, to learn, to recognize, so I can now live from not the abandonment, but
Mm-hmm.
from, you know, acceptance. I
Yes.
have to accept me first so I don't stay stuck in abandonment. And that's just, like one example, unlovedness, to unable to create, to because having children really is about creating life. And perhaps the belief in that is that I'm bad at creating. I can't create. I'm unable to create. I'm not a creative being.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is, especially women. Yeah. So it's changing the question and looking at not why is this happening, but what is happening and what is it showing me? What is it teaching me? And in
Especially if that pattern has been repetitive, right? It's going to keep showing up, it's going to keep appearing until we learn what it is that we need to learn. And so, if, for instance, you've experienced a lot of miscarriages, what else is happening? Why can't you hold on to this life? There's more going on in your being than perhaps you have paid attention to before.
yeah, and that sort of ties in with what I mentioned earlier of us being energetic beings. When um, our thought vibration doesn't match our heart vibration,
Hmm.
we the thoughts have a very specific frequency, but they are lower vibrating frequency than emotions, feelings, and then emotions. So you can, in your thoughts, say, I want to have a child, but your feelings and your beliefs that I can't or I don't deserve, this energy all around us that is intelligent, universal prana, right? That's what you breathe in. You breathe in that energy because its job is to support you, to have your back, because you are part of it. You were created of it. And it wants to do the best for you, but it speaks to your feelings and emotions. So let's say your thought is, I want to have a child. But for some reason, your deep seated belief is that you can't, you don't deserve, you're unable to create whatever that thought is. You have to look at your curriculum. Um,
Hmm.
then you're attracting like energy. And the energy is, sorry, I got to plug my computer. It's notified me. And I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. So it will pull energies that says, I don't deserve. And this is where, like all of these that we've been talking about keeps tying together. And it's one beautiful circle. But that's where meditation becomes a very powerful practice. And in yin, during yin, we're also meditating. Every pose is meditation. So you don't, if
Hmm.
you're a person that I can't just sit, put my fingers together and go, you don't have to do yin, do restorative. You can meditate during that and through that, but it teaches you to hear the messages from your body because your body never lies. Your mind will always try to trick you into what is the safest. Yeah, and it's not
Hmm.
always the truth. So your body might tell your mind might say, um, your body might say, you need rest, but your mind says, yeah, but then I'm undeserving, that I'm not good enough if I'm not doing. So the mind often overrides because we haven't learned how to listen, right? So if your body is saying that you're in a state of disbelief, you're believing deep-seatedly that you don't deserve to be a parent, or you don't know how to be, or you can't be, or this wasn't meant to be, you're attracting those energies and that will become your truth.
Yes, I think everybody needs to hear that and realize and recognize how powerful your thoughts are.
Mhm.
And that if there is something that has been spiraling and looping in your mind for months, years, decades, you can rewire it. And it doesn't have to be how life plays out in front of you moving forward. You have a lot more ability to create the life that you desire than perhaps you thought was possible. And I definitely learned that through all of your teachings of, wow, I was always outsourcing my power, my wisdom to other people, and it was really time to harness that and actually feel empowered in all areas of my life, and you know, for, the pregnancy with my twins and to when I had my youngest, they were night and day difference because I was a completely different person in that time frame. And so we do have the ability to have life play out in the way that we desire, but we also have to learn to surrender. And there was a lot of surrender that happened to me on my yoga mat for sure. And a lot of tears were cried, but they all led me to be where I am now. And it was also a deep learning of all emotions were welcome. Nothing was good or bad, quote unquote. And I think a lot of times we don't learn and haven't been taught how to sit with what is uncomfortable. And therefore, we suppress it and we repress it and think that we don't ever have to face it. And yet, it is still affecting us on a day in and day out basis.
Hmm. I don't know if you know this fact that every emotion that you're experiencing lasts up to 90 seconds.
Yes.
Like, well, no, I've been angry with my neighbor for 10 years. Well, it's it's because you allow yourself to keep repeating similar
Hmm.
thoughts that you're looping, right? So the thought creates a feeling, the feeling creates the emotion creates new thoughts that are very similar because you're inviting those energies. But the moment we choose to pause and say, this is what I'm feeling, and allow that sensation of the feeling, and anyone can practice it in this moment. You close your eyes and you think of something that was the happiest moment of your life.
Hmm.
That thought instantly changes the sensations and the emotions of your body, and then it's gone
Hmm.
because that's all it needs. We are emotion processing machines, right?
Yes.
And but then you could get stuck in, and usually we get stuck in, unfortunately, the negative ones, not in the positive ones. And there's a reason
Hmm.
for that too, and it's a whole nother podcast.
Yes.
but but you close your eyes and you think of something that has happened to you that makes you feel really, really, really sad. And instantly it's like with your eyes even closed, your eyes water, your throat closes, your heart feels terrible. The thought brought on the sensations, which brought on the emotion. Sadness is felt in the body, but our mind is purposefully designed to forget. And I can talk a whole nother podcast about the forgetting and the remembering, but it was designed. It was purposefully designed by ourselves as spirit beings. We're going to come into this body and forget and see if we can remember.
Hmm.
And so the remembering starts with processing our emotions as they come and go. And we can choose to get stuck if we so want to in happy emotions, because it's only in the subconscious programmed mind that is programmed specifically the way to keep us in the forgetting, unless we choose to remember.
Conscious choice always. And I think it's a beautiful reminder that we do have that choice in each and every moment. It's, you know, if I'm not feeling like my energetic self, then I have a choice. I can continue to be self-pitying or I can choose to uplift my vibrations. And so it's always a choice. And maybe we haven't learned that, but we can definitely move forward with that knowledge. And it can become embodied wisdom where, okay, I notice this, I accept this, but is this where I want to stay? Have I sat with this? Do I feel complete? And can I move on without taking that with me, right? Most of us are carrying a sack of stuff over our shoulder that we don't need to be carrying with us daily.
Yeah, yeah. And like as you said earlier, you said, there's no such a thing as good emotion or bad emotion. All emotions are welcome. Like if you actually came into this world, into this wonderful human body, and you said, in this lifetime I'm only going to experience positive emotions, and let's say you lose a parent, because old age, they have moved on, and you're unable to feel sadness or grief because you chose that. Is that really living a whole life? We're running away from the feelings and emotions that we label as uncomfortable or bad or hurtful or painful, yet they are a huge part of who we are. And there's that saying that the stronger you can feel pain, the stronger you can feel love. And I
Yeah.
don't know about people out there, but I want my love to be the strongest. So I have to be also open to receive and to feel the deepest of pain and loss.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that every emotion, if I allow it to live itself out, lasts up to 90 seconds. That's not a long
Mm-hmm.
time. And that's what,
No.
living in the present mean. And as you go, you're constantly processing your thoughts and feelings and emotions. And then you don't have to carry it as the 50-pound baggage because it's not a baggage anymore. It was in
Yeah.
the past, now it's done. Will I ever get sad in the future? Yes. Will I have to carry that? No. But I also don't have to carry the feeling that I must feel always loved. I must feel always happy, you know?
Yeah, I think that's where people get a bit confused and a bit lost is like the toxic positivity of, no, I have to be positive all the time. But that's not living fully. It's denying the other half of what is happening in your life. You know, the flat tire or the whatever that shows up for you. We
Yeah.
all have little obstacles on a daily basis to deal with. And so, you know, can you move through that, or are you just gonna be mad and let it ruin your day? Because sometimes we can let it ruin our day, our week, our month, and so on.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't it be a beautiful world if, let's say you woke up and for whatever reason you were just sad. It reminded you whatever dream or whatever the morning is of something of loss or grief, and a lot of people want to hide that feeling. So like that day they just won't post on social media. They just won't show up to friends. They just won't show up to the dinner party or whatever it is because they're experiencing sadness. But what if we actually showed up and said, this is how I feel, and I'm okay with it. Today I'm having a sad day.
Hmm.
And if everybody was able to wear their emotions, show their emotions, accept and love and fully embrace all of their emotions, then we wouldn't have to make it bad or wrong. We wouldn't have to hide from it. It was just like, well, today's this day. Today's this day. Today's a joyful day. Tomorrow, I don't know. But let's just be who we are and what we are in this moment.
I think a lot of women with infertility struggle with that because they're hiding how they're actually feeling on the inside because there's a lot of sadness, a lot of grief, a lot of disappointment, and perhaps shame or guilt. So many heavy, energetic emotions, and yet that's not what they're presenting outwardly, whether it's with at work or with family or with friends. And so that's also not really allowing them to be authentic and to be in alignment with how their state of being is truly feeling in the moment.
Yeah, and that's a very confused energy that invites more confused energy. And the moment and I think that's really what happened for you is you allowed yourself to be clear on what is.
Hmm.
When even in that yoga class in the labyrinth, when you have those aha moments, that's moments of clarity. And once you open a door of aha, you can never close it, by the way. Yeah.
No.
So the more we get to open all the windows, and it's just like, listen, this is what's happening. This is how I'm feeling. The universe starts to really pull together all its um, resources to get you what you deserve, which is all the goodness in the world. But hiding
Hmm.
behind, you know, um, positive emotions versus actually showing what they are is confusing those energies. And confusion
Mhm.
doesn't quite necessarily bring us our desired effect.
I think also one of your quotes is, what is seen can't be unseen, right? You can't bury your head in the sand once you see something. It's like your life is forever changed from that moment on, and there is no going back because I think also you can get stuck in, where you were and if only it could be that way again, or why didn't this work out the way that I anticipated? And so we can really feel lost in that, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, I think these women, as you said, hiding behind different feelings and emotions, um, it's it's putting on a face that isn't real.
Hmm.
And so when you allow yourself to be that, you no longer can hide behind it. So, when you say it's earlier, we talked about it's almost like they're wanting to become someone they're not because they believe that who they are is wrong.
Hmm.
So they're put on the face of joy, the face of happiness, the face of not this, not that, not that, and so they're being a false personality and they're inviting more of that false personality. But when you start paying attention, when you do the practice, when you do yin, when you do meditation, when you do restorative, when you start to see yourself and you allow yourself to be yourself, because what you see, you can never unsee. So you see, it's like, okay, I've been putting on this facade, but that's not who I am.
Hmm.
Become clearer and clearer and clearer about who you are. And who you are is a flawless, wholesome, perfect, beautiful being that deserves to be a parent, that will be a parent. But first,
Hmm.
you need to see yourself in that light. You need to see yourself clearly and how incredibly amazing you already are just by being here.
Hmm.
Because none of us would make it into this world if we weren't. We just
Yeah.
forget.
I think it's a deep inner sort of journey, but it's definitely there for people to embark on. And a lot of societal expectations may be chipping away at you, of how you are seeing yourself, how you're feeling about yourself, how you're moving through this. And so, you can really begin to peel back those layers and really get back to who you truly are. And the journey will become so much easier when you feel balanced, you feel aligned, you wake up and you realize everything is exactly as it's meant to be, and you're not missing anything, you're not behind, you're not late. You are exactly where you're meant to be, and you can really take that stress and pressure off of your shoulders.
Exactly.
I would love for you to speak into, because you're such a creative soul. I'm wearing one of her creations. But how tapping into your creativity can actually help you on your fertility journey, and just connect those dots for anybody who's listening, because they may not realize how tapping into their creativity in any way, shape, or form, and I'm sure you're going to list a whole bunch of ways because you do so many beautiful things, but how that can actually help you and serve you.
Mm-hmm. Um, I'd like to connect what people understand to what they may not. So I think, all know that there's two hemispheres to our brain, right? Left side of our brain is the side that keeps us in the human form. It helps us to pay our bills, to feed ourselves, to do all the logistics. The
Hmm.
right side of the brain, and it's considered the masculine energy of ours. The right side of our brain is our creative side. and it's our feminine energy. Now, creativity, for a lot of people, when you say to create, they instantly think of being an artist that does incredible paintings or carvings or statues. But the moment you organize your home, you put flowers out into your home, you garden, you cook, you bake, that's all creating something from something else or from nothing. So it doesn't have to necessarily be art. Now, using artistic creation is helpful to use the part of the brain that is lesser used, right? We have no problem thinking from our left side brain, but it's because we use it all day, every day. So
Hmm.
the other part of our brain is just as powerful, but also energetically, the two hemispheres switch, halfway through our body. So our right side body is our masculine side, our left side is our creative side, heart side, right? And so when we feel certain things in our body too, it's like, oh, it's my left shoulder, it's my left arm, it's my left hip. It's your body is speaking to you that, use your creativity, do more creative things. So for me, I've always liked doodling, and it doesn't have to be anything special or crazy. It doesn't even have to be beautiful, but the act of doodling, for one, it's creative, but it also stops you from running around, from being overly busy, and it brings your entire being, your mind, your breath, your body, your emotions, everything into the now. You can't doodle in the past, you can doodle in the future. you know and you start to notice that when you do that, your mind slows down, and when it's slowing down, what happens is all the chatter that's in there from the program start to let go and release, because you're not listening to them. They're like, I lost her, I'm not in charge anymore. And the mind just like, it's like, fine. And that's the moment where you're like, okay, now you get to see who you truly are,
Hmm.
right? And so yeah, doodling. I call my doodles mandala drawing because that's what they turn into. I started with, I drew a tiny little flower, and then I made bigger little things, and I made the flower bigger. And then it just evolved into this round, beautiful thing of, like, when I looked it up, it was a mandala. And
Hmm.
so then I just turned that into more and more, and eventually wrote a book about it, because what I discovered by drawing regularly, that I'm like, I noticed this about myself. I noticed how I choose this over this. I started to really notice what's in behind, or what are the actual programmings of the mind. And then, like, I would sometimes get to a point where I'm like, oh, I didn't mean to draw something pretty. I just really wanted to draw. This is how they all actually started out. But now that I got to about halfway and it's now looking quite pretty, now I start to feel anxiety. And what if I now mess it up? Because I'm already so far into it. So now I stop trusting myself. I pause and I freeze, and I don't draw anymore because I'm going to mess up the beauty that I already created. Again, it's something I notice about me. And then once I started noticing these while I was drawing, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I do this everywhere in life. I get to a point and then I'm too afraid, so I don't finish things. Because what if now I mess up and ruin the work that I put into it up to this point? you know? So drawing anything, doodling, mandala drawing, is a practice of self-discovery.
Yes.
So the book that I wrote, I actually take people through the whole process of, these are the steps to create a mandala. And at each step, you can ask yourself these questions while you're doing this. And I write out meditations, but eventually I think I'm going to record them too and somehow have them. I write now on Substack, which is another platform that isn't really social media. There's no advertising, there's no anything. You follow who you follow and you just read their writings. Um, and in there, I write a lot about the process, but also I put up meditations there. So through the book, you'll draw, you contemplate, and then when something does come up and you have your aha moment and the door opens and it will never close, but here's your opportunity to actually journal. And I think journaling is another extremely beautiful form of self-discovery because while you're drawing, yes, you can ask yourself questions, but when you're actually purposefully journaling about something that you asked yourself of, and I was like, okay, I want to look into the thing of why I choose this or that. Why do I believe that I deserve to be a parent? Why can't I get pregnant? And you ask yourself these questions and you start to draw or to journal about it. What you notice is first your mind will empty all the thoughts that
Hmm.
are covering the truth, and eventually the truth will surface.
Yes.
So yeah, those are, like, yes, I paint, yes, I make um resin art, I make concrete things, I make candles, like I cook, I bake. Like I am a very creative person, but I believe that everybody is. We just don't often consider that what we're doing is actually being creative.
Yes.
You know?
Wholeheartedly agree. And I love to see everything that you create because it always just takes my breath away. I'm like, wow, look at that. It's amazing how you have really tapped into your creativity so much. And I would love for you to share any other ways people can connect with you or find you and learn more about your work.
Hmm. I do have a website which needs to be updated, and it's yvettelehmann.com. It speaks to some of my yoga adventures during the pandemic. I went on to my very own silent retreat for myself as I needed a lot of processing and came away with incredible insights. And so when I got back and I talked about it on Facebook Live, people were like, can you do one of those? So it became a thing. And every year I try to organize and offer one or two of these retreats for others. So that's on the website if and when that's happening. I have all my art pieces, which needs to be updated because I sold a lot of them over the last little bit. Um, they are often showcased at a new coffee shop up in Sun Rivers. I don't know if you've ever been to River Brew Cafe.
Yes, I
But
have been there.
it's a funny story because the curator phones me and says, how do you feel about if I put your pieces in the bathroom? And it was a brand new building, a brand new thing. It hasn't been opened. And I'm thinking, my geode crystal pieces in the bathroom. I don't know. I'm like, but you know what? I don't care. Whatevs. So, he puts 4 or 5 pieces in there. And, within 3 days, it's like your piece sold from the bathroom. A few days later, another piece sold from the bathroom. And I need to put new pieces in there. So we kept rearranging and me being like everything that was in the bathroom. And then I sat with that for a bit. I'm like, what's the story there? And I went up to that coffee shop with friends, and this is what happens. The friend comes, let's say, I say, hey, Ashley, meet me at River Brew. Let's have coffee. You come, we sit down, and we get excited about having a conversation. We're not looking at the art. and you say, hey, I have to go to the bathroom. And you go in there, you're all by yourself. Now you're not talking, you're not distracted. You sit there, you look around, it's like, wow, this art is pretty nice,
Mm.
right? So this is how distracted we are at all times. The whole
Yes.
place was filled with amazing and incredible art by incredible artists. Mine sold because it was in the pooper, where you actually spend time by yourself. So another powerful point of spend time with yourself, by yourself, quietly, because you never know. Um, but yeah, so I make all these different things. I crochet, I knit, and all that. But so art pieces usually are up on the website, but as I said, I sold a lot of them. Where most of my energy is going these days is onto that platform called Substack. And there's a ton of authors and writers and people that are genuinely wanting to write about beautiful things, novelists to bloggers to anyone that has something to say in every genre possible. So mine is all about the great forgetting and the great remembering and what underneath all that is, and how one discovers their own curriculum, and how once you discover that, it helps you live literally the best of your life because with that knowledge. So it's kind of like, let me just use an example. So let's say you go to university and you choose to become a journalist. So you choose a curriculum that teaches you to become a journalist. And it's hard because you have your professors, they teach you this, you have all these assignments, and you have to do all these things. And it's hard. And you're like, why is this happening to me? When I look over and Jane, who chose to be an artist and studying art, she doesn't have to do the assignments I have, right? So we compare our hard, but then Jane looks over and says, well, they don't have to, come up with an idea of painting this or making a sculpture out of this, or like their life is easy. We always think that everybody else's life is easy because our issues are hard. But once you understand that I chose this, I chose to study not being able to have a child. And not necessarily in that, that's actually one of the assignments. It's not
Yes.
the curriculum, but it's part of it. And that's the thing. It's like once you see your curriculum, you can't not see how everything that is a struggle is coming to you because it teaches you that. And from it,
Mhm.
you learn. And the more you learn and the more you open, the easier learning becomes. Once you,
Yes.
you say it's like, well, I want to be a journalist. This is what I chose. So these are my assignment and I just got to do this. The
Hmm.
more you do it, the easier the assignments become until it's just not a chore, right? So,
Right.
so and I in that put on at home retreats that one can do with guided meditations, journaling prompts, and almost all of once if you choose to subscribe to it, there's free option, paid option. Paid option gets more things. They get free versus having to buy the meditations and so forth. $5 a month. I don't do that because this is what I'm going to be rich from by any means. I also believe when we talked earlier about energy, that there's an exchange of energy. If I say everything is free, free doesn't feel like you're actually receiving something valuable.
Right.
Even if you pay $5, now it has value. So
Hmm.
when you receive the meditation, when you read the words, which take me days and days and days to write each of those, and you read it within 2 minutes. By the way, there is a button on top that if you're not a reader, you can listen to it.
Oh,
I chose,
nice.
I chose a British accent, and she reads it to you. I love it. I like, yeah. Anyways, I love accents, but yeah. So that's really where people these days can find me and follow along and come along to this journey of living your best life.
Amazing. I want to thank you so much for being here today. It has been a real honor. Connect with Yvette. If you're ever in Kamloops, find her. She's amazing. And from my heart to yours, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for being here. The light in me honors the light of all of you, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank
Mhm.
you so much.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you.